Hey guys, welcome to Reparenting Daily, Friday Fireside Chat. It's March, and the theme for this month is building self-trust and confidence. And I came across this really great podcast episode. I wanted to share with you guys just a portion of it. I've shared another podcast episode, portion of it from them earlier, but this podcast is called The Art of Charm. And in this episode, they're talking about the impacts, advantages, and disadvantages of having the right people in your life. So much of your self-trust and confidence, can be set correctly internally. But if your external environment, and more importantly, the people in your life are dragging you down, or if they're sabotaging you, or if they're just not the right people who really see and mirror and reflect your value, it's going to have detrimental impacts. And so while confidence, yes, is an internal job, we have to be mindful of the people that we're around, because that can cause us to lose the confidence that we've built or to struggle more with self-belief than is necessary. In short, it can cause us to waste time, waste our lives, and fall short of our goals. And so finding the right people and making sure that the wrong people are out of your life is also important. And so let's take a moment to check out a portion of this podcast. You can find a link in the show notes if you'd like to listen to the full original episode in its entirety.
So I sent Johnny a study last week, and his response was basically, we've been saying this for 18 years, and now there's DNA evidence. Johnny, tell him what I sent you.
You sent me a study showing that when you don't have the right people in your life, it adds a ton of friction. There is a lot of people that we accept into our lives, either who have been friends in the past and had great relationships that we've grown apart from, or us being tolerant and being polite has led into our lives that take our time, destroy our morale, make life harder to deal with on a daily basis. We certainly understand the benefits of being more critical of the folks that you've let in and how incredible life can be when you're letting in the right people into your life.
Absolutely. And here's the actual finding. Researchers at Indiana University published this in PNAS. They took DNA samples from 2,345 people. They mapped every person's close social network, and they found that the people in your life who chronically stress you out are actually accelerating your biological aging at the cellular level. Not how stressed you feel, your actual DNA. Each additional hassler, their word for someone who often causes problems or makes your life difficult, corresponds to a 1.5% faster biological aging, about 9 extra months of biological age compared to someone the same age without that person in their life.
They're being awfully nice with that term hassler. I could think of some better terms. And some of you guys out there who have been in our live programs have heard me say this one line that I've been saying over and over again, which is the price of having low value people in your life is your life. And this study proves it. It breaks it down at a scientific level. Yeah, we'll use their word. Hasslers create drama, stress, and drain you, not only of your energy, but your life. They make mornings hard to get up for when you have a lot of hasslers in your life. And, I'm now 52 and I get a lot of comments about how I look. Well, when you say this and understand this and have been actively working towards this for 18 years, well, it's gonna save those gray hairs for later.
So to be clear about what they measure, this is not a survey asking people how lonely they feel. They actually measured your epigenetic clock, biological markers inside your cells that track how fast your body is aging at the molecular level. And the damage from having one hassler in your close network corresponds to about 13 to 70% of the biological harm caused by smoking. And I don't think anyone here would pick up a smoking habit currently.
A smoking habit, eating bad food habit, watching the equivalent of junk food, junk entertainment. The folks that listen to this, and I'm sure many of you guys hearing this right now, have went through painstaking decisions to install discipline in your life to look, feel, and operate at your best. This is just one more component that you may have overlooked that is doing just as much damage, if not more.
And here's the part that actually got me the most. 1 in 3 people in the study had at least one hassler in their close network. Not an acquaintance, not a coworker they see in passing. Someone they named as an important person in their life is hassling them.
To have a social life is to interact with these people. There is something that we have to understand about human nature in general. And this was one of the hardest things for me to accept, which was projection bias. People think like we do. So if we're good-natured, if we're tolerant, if we're polite, we open our doors up to everybody. I'm that way. And I certainly was more open and tolerant earlier in my life. And of course, there were people who saw that opening and then by their own nature to get what they can to conserve their own energy, took advantage of that. And I certainly, when you bringing this up, there are certain people who stuck out in my mind who got away with probably way too much. And how I view life now at my age, they certainly wouldn't have that opportunity. But most importantly, you're listening out there now. Who's your hassler?
And how do you distance yourself?
Hey guys, welcome back. Yeah, as I told you before, this is an excellent episode because they're not only talking about the practical, negative effects, but literally the biological decay that happens to your DNA by being surrounded by the wrong people. That friend who is envious and jealous, who makes the put down comments, yeah, that's shortening your life. Maintaining relationships with your narcissistic mother and father is aging you faster than smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. And so when we're in this reparenting journey and perhaps we spent a greater deal of our lives being exploited or not being nourished by connection, you might even have arrived at the point that you don't even understand what is the benefit to connection, right? It's possible to have reached that point, unfortunately. And so this is why. If your entire life is surrounded by people who are exploiting you, dragging you down, you will begin to decay, literally. You will not reach your goals. You will most likely have an early death. People are opportunistic, and exploitation is one of the most, I don't know, how do you say this? Natural human inclinations to save time, to save effort. If you can do it easier, even my own father exploited my mother just to become a citizen, for example, right? So many people, you think socializing is really for connecting, but so many people use socializing as a tool for exploitation. And so if you grew up without that awareness, that support, that knowledge, that guidance and protection, then, you might have experienced a lot of this in your life. And so that's why it's ever so important, because now we're living with the effects of that, and we have to begin to get those people out of our lives, trust the process that the correct people will come. It's kind of like the Carl Jung quote, no matter how alone you are, if you do your work diligently, the right people will come and find you. And so today, I just want to remind you of that as you're going out this weekend, having some fun, connecting with people, whatever you plan to do. Be mindful of who's in your circle, who's around you, the energy. How do you really feel with them? Is it just someone that you're going to get a drink with because you haven't had any conversations all week? And, this person is not even really a good match or a good person for you. You're just out of desperation or loneliness. Or are you connecting with people who are actually lifting you up and moving your life forward? Because the difference is night and day. So this weekend, always have fun, as I say, but even more importantly, make sure that you're aware of the people that you're spending your time with. That's it for today. As always, take care, have fun, and please do be well.